who you work for. That'd be great.
This is Ryan Ward from NMDA.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Anne-Marie Mathern with the USGS.
That was Raymond with Bureau Reclamation.
Curtis McFadden, Army Corps of Engineers, Albuquerque District.
David Brown, NOAA Regional Climate Services, Fort Worth.
Victor Murphy, National Weather Service, Southern Region Headquarters, also in Fort Worth.
Mary Ewell, BLM, New Mexico State Office.
This is Roy Jemison, U.S. Forest Service, Albuquerque.
This is Sean Bennett here at the National Weather Service, Albuquerque.
Mariana Padilla with Congresswoman Michelle Lujan Grisham's office.
This is John Longworth with the Office of the State Engineer.
Molly Magnuson with the Office of the State Engineer.
Ken Richard with the Office of the State Engineer.
Okay, anybody else? Don't be shy. Okay. Well, welcome everybody.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Longworth, let me jump. I didn't hear John Fleck or Susan Montoya Bryant. Are those guys on? Great. Yeah, I just want to make sure. Sometimes they're quiet.
So, no, is there anybody from the media on the call today? I didn't hear. No. Okay. All right.
Wow, first time. Woo, we can talk freely.
All right. All right. Well, we'll have to wish a happy birthday to Chuck when he gets back. So Sean is taking his place for this month, and Sean is looks like he's got everything ready and going. Does anybody have any problems seeing the GoToMeeting graphics on their screen? Everybody see it? All right. So Sean, let's go ahead and lead off on our the conditions from the National Weather Service.
Okay, Dave. So here we're going to go through the latest information as we have it here at the National Weather Service. Drought status and the climate weather outlook. July was a pretty good month. When you look at this map, you see the state of New Mexico here. On either side is the Panhandle in Texas and Arizona. All of the blue, green, and purples are above. Anything that's yellow or towards brown is a little bit below normal. But statewide, we had above normal precip, and that's been a while in coming. And for that reason, principally, we track here in Albuquerque, we track the monsoon in various ways. One of the ways we track it, based on studies from the University of New Mexico and scientists over there, is to follow dew point. And it's not the only way, but it's one way. And so when we average out the 24-hour dew points, and if you have a threshold of 47 degrees Fahrenheit or more, we consider that to be, if it is coincident with moisture from a monsoon flow, we have a monsoon condition going, we consider that monsoon moisture. The monsoon then, by our reckoning, started in the Albuquerque area around the 1st of July. So that was a little bit earlier than the average, and it's been, in terms of moisture, above the 47 degree threshold on the 24-hour average, except for one day in the last, up till today. So when we have precipitation like that, it ranks in terms of the wettest, 17th wettest. So it's, we've had sort of what for us, since we've been in a drought, it's been sort of a routine or normal monsoon with slightly above in areas, but it really seems wet because people forget what the monsoon really is like. And this state graphic shows that it comes in at 103 in terms of wet, so there were 16 wetter years than this year. Oregon comes in at number 1, my home state, in terms of dry, and Florida comes in at the wettest actual numbers around the region and the state, those are the numbers. Unless you know the climate, you can see the actual numbers. Sunport, 2.77. Here down in Las Vegas, Las Vegas, New Mexico, that is, 7 inches. Conchas Dam, 5.66. Red River, 6 point, and so on. So in 2 to 7 inches. Silver City, it ranges from 1.36 to 9, almost 10 inches. So it's been a fairly wet month. There's a range here around the Albuquerque Sunport from a half inch to 4.5, 4.6, etc. And that's all around the city, but in general, it's been a wet month. Our deficit has shrunk, but if you look over on the right, and that's the January through July, the only place that has above normal percent of normal precip, again, the right column, Carlsbad, 106. Everything else is below normal, still. Of course, we've been in a very wet, or dry period, up until here recently. The monsoon has made a dent in the precipitation deficit, or as Chuck put it, it's shrunk a little bit. So you can see those numbers ranging from 50 or so percent up through 90 and 100% around the region. When you look at January through June, and this is the point I want to make, look at just Cochiti. Cochiti Dam through June was at 16% of normal. And then here in the last month, it jumped all the way up to 61%. And that shows the effect of what has been an above normal month, or normal in some places, slightly below, but overall, a pretty good monsoon month of July. So you see the effect of the rains that we had recently. Carlsbad was at 31%, and now it's 106. So it has made a dent, and I think not too soon, because we're running out of surface water, so to speak. You look at it in terms of spatial distribution, statewide average for the calendar year, January through July, 71% of normal. So we're still below normal. Central Valley has done relatively well. You can see the green. There's a circle around Las Lunas there, 120% of normal. So, and there's a circle up around Red River up in the northeast, 120% of normal. So there's areas that have, if you take the climate divisions, those are the lines in white. The Central Valley, and that's the whole area, was at 88% of normal. The other areas were a little bit lower. But you see the coloration there, and you can see some areas actually did go above normal for the period of January through July. When you look at it in terms of precipitation rank, January through July, not just July, we're at 35th driest. So, we're climbing out of the hole, but we're not out by any stretch, and we're in a below normal period still. There's many ways to say this, and that's what we're doing here. October through July, the water year, which starts in October, we're in the 18th driest. Statewide average is 64% of normal. So when you add the fall and winter periods, because they were drier than normal, we fall below. We go from 77% to 64%. And it just reflects the dryness that we had previous to the oncoming of the monsoon. And you can see there were areas, but very few, when you look at the entire water year, that were 80% plus. A lot of the area was much below that. Now we look at, there's a couple of charts coming up. This is a 12-month. So go back to August of 2012 through July, the end of July. And 12th driest. If you take look at the very right and the circle here. Now you look at, here's the driest, okay, and here's where we are now. You can see where we've come up a little bit in a 12-month average, running average. That's what you get. So on 12-month average, not bad. If you look at it in 24-month terms, now we're in the realm of the 50s, which we all know is one of the bigger dry periods in New Mexico. We come in at 7th driest, If you look at it in terms of the 36-month period, we're still the number one driest. So that's the overall effect of 2 and 3 years of dry. And so we're the driest, we're still the driest through the end of July, even though we've had a nice July. It just tells you have to do a lot more than 1 month to get out of statistical territory of the driest, or even close to the top 10 driest. And so it's going to take a little more to climb out of a drought, but I'm sure everybody's happy we've had the rain. When you look at it farther in time, we start to plateau into the 9th driest, 4 years out, 9th driest, 5 years out, 9th driest. So we're into the top 10 driest, whatever you say. Of course, if you look out in 3-year period, it's first driest. And that little chart, maybe a little hard for y'all to see, basically describes that with the number values and the departures. Again, the brown one, it's hard for me to see it here. The brown one shows us in the driest period, just like I just said. Going back to August of 2010, we're the driest in our climate record. We don't have records thousands of years, but going back to the 100 years or so record, we're in the driest 3-year period that's ever occurred. So if you look at now we've finished off July and we're into August, but up through the 14th, here's a look at the percent of normal precipitation as well. And as he has indicated, most areas are above normal. So August, even though, and the media has picked up on this, there's one area around the metro of Albuquerque that's had some dryness there. And of course, just on the other side of the mountain, in the Drought Valley, through there. But a lot of the state most areas have been above normal. You can see particularly dry down in the southeast for the first 14 days of August. Yes.
Quick question, does that include the Fort Tawas event?
No. Yesterday and the day before, no.
So the big one, they got 5 inches?
Yeah. No.
Okay.
We just had 2 days of really heavy precip over there. That's not in there.
Okay.
And that was like yesterday and the day before. It might have one of those days.
The one from the 10th and the 11th, was that one?
Yeah, the 10th and 11th is there, right. But more recently we had some problems.
And then there's like one out in Tucumcari as well, like yesterday.
Yeah. No, we're up to the 14th.
Okay. I just wanted
It's missing a few of those. Where we need to do it is down here.
Right.
Get rid of that one and add some more up in the northwest. So, but you can see the blue and green areas where we had above normal precip. Looking at the drought monitor through August 13th, that's earlier this week. And the bullet on the very bottom left, extreme exceptional drought, that's 66% of the state. Nearly the rest of the state is moderate to severe drought. So the state remains in moderate to severe, or the majority in exceptional to extreme drought. So we've had some improvement, and I know everybody's thankful to see the rain, but it hasn't by any shape or stretch ended our drought. It's improved things, but hasn't ended it. If you look at the change by 1 month, there's the chart. August up on the upper left and July on the bottom right. You can see more areas that have, just looking at the colors, that there's less of the bright red and dark red, and more of the brownish colors. So that reflects some of the improvement up through those areas. But definitely we're still, majority of the state, 2/3 of it, at least in exceptional or extreme drought. So there's been 1 month change that's been improved, but it certainly hasn't ended things. 3-month change, again, improvement. You can see going back to May, it was even worse, but we're still in a moderate or worse drought. And here's some information. We've shown this stuff before, and this has to do with soil moisture. So we've gotten the rain. So it has it done anything to improve things. And we're looking at a network location near Los Lunas, this through the 8th of August. So which of those squirrely lines should we focus on? That one is last year. And then looking at the early part of the year where it's circled, you can see that soil moisture for this year, and that's the, I don't know if you can really see the colors there, but it's sort of a purplish lavender color. That's the soil moisture at 4 inches depth in the soil, daily percentages. Very low, but and compared to the last couple of years, it hasn't been very good this year at all. But that's the compound effect of 2 or 3 years of drought too, right? So there it has been in the early part of the year up through July, and then we get into July. And that little spike right there in the lavender purple color is the response at 4 inches from the recent rain. The red line, which I showed previously, is response from rain last year and how it responded. A little better response, but we're only at 4-inch depth. So yeah, there is some effect in the top soil, you might say, 4 inches. This is interesting. Now we're looking out in the place called Crossroads out in the southeast. We have two depths here. We have a 2-inch depth at the top and a 20-inch depth at the bottom. And we'll bring your attention to, at 2 inches, there's a steady decrease in the number of 30-day recharges. Recharges are where you see the line going up above a 13%. So we haven't had a lot of recharge. There's been a couple here recently, but look through here. You know, it's been pretty bad. And none since January 2012. However, if you look at 20 inches, so this is where you start getting into recharge, because you get water all the way down to 20 inches in the ground, you can really start recharging. And you don't see much response there. As compared to previously, there's a little bit of a gradual improvement, but it's not great as compared to previous years where you see it spiking up over 20% there. So water has been surface, it's penetrated topsoils, but it hasn't really gone into recharge yet. We need much more than what we've had, and that's something you'll see with a better winter. There's the comparison. The near 2-inch up in the upper right, highlighted by that yellowish circle or ellipse, you can see the recharging in very close in 2 inches, but not much down deep at 20 inches. And that's really what you want to see to really get good recharge. Monsoon's not over, but we'll see. There's a lot of deficit to make up, would be another way to put it, in the soils. So now let's look out in time. We've got a big crystal ball back east in terms of supercomputers and all that. And a lot of scientists, both in the agency and in universities all around the world, and collectively they have put their heads together and they're modeling together, and this is what it comes out to be. So the model consensus supports an ENSO neutral condition. Remember that ENSO neutral means between the 0.5 and the minus 0.5. And you see the envelope of lines basically are between those two numbers. The bottom, there's a group of lines that is between 0 and minus 0.5, and there's a group in the 0 and plus 0.5. You look at the yellow, fat yellow line, that's the consensus dynamic average of models. But you see that line doesn't go, essentially it kind of creeps up towards the 0.5. It's still in the neutral range. A little harder to see, but sort of a mauve color down here, a fat line. That's the consensus of human beings working at our Climate Prediction Center. And they are at the other side, but in essence, they're also creeping towards the 0, but they're both in the neutral condition. And as a result, with very little, with a condition indicated by modeling. When you look at it spatially, you're not going to get much. In the near term, however, they say for September, you can see above normal chances there. In the far southwest and the west part, equal chances basically over the east part of the state. And you know, the drill here, every time we look at temperatures now, and seems like they're always above. So that's mostly going to be due to above normal low temperatures, I believe. And here we get into September through November, the fall, and we have equal chances, which means statistically it could be above, normal, or below, any of those categories. Equal chance of any of those categories. Doesn't mean normal. It means one of those categories is equally likely. Okay? Equal chances. And again, September to November temperature above normal is the likely outcome statistically for that period. Again, a lot of that doesn't mean we're going to be warm all the time. It just means you combine average out all the temperatures and Cleveland low will be above the normal over the past 30 years. And when you boil it all down into this graph, which is the drought outlook through November of the 30th, the end of November, released here this week, we see some improvement. That's the hatched green line, no pun intended, and over the state. Although there are the northeast and northeast and southeast still shows some persisting drought. So, and in the very far Boot Hill region, there's some potential removal if we got that above normal precip. I think that's where that correlates to. So, overall, we have persisting drought, but the monsoon has shown improvement, which is basically the message that I just showed you. We've had some improvement, but it's not ending the drought. We need the winter time, and we need this to go on for a year or two more, just like we had 3 years below. That'd be my editorial comment on this, scientifically based, of course. And here's the connecting information, all the contact information. Chuck Jones is our lead forecaster who does a lot of work with our climate. We currently do not have our hydrologist on station. The previous one retired. That's it from the Weather Service. Question, John?
Could you go back to the consensus spaghetti plot?
Sure. With pleasure. Always a topic of discussion.
So on this chart, it looks like the statistical models are on the low side for the most part.
Yes.
The dynamical models are on the high side for the most part. My question is, the consensus, which is the human element, seems to track perhaps in between the dynamic and statistical models. I've got two questions. One, what factors maybe keep it on the cool side? As we'll recall, last year we never had a full-blown La Nina, but some of us are a little bit more in, well, it may not have been full La Nina, but it was certainly cool. And so that gives one pause. And my second, let's just start with that question.
Okay, Mike. My answer to that is this doesn't tell the entire story of ocean temperatures. We use this as a indicator in terms of ENSO, but there are other types of circulations. One we call the PDO. In the negative phase of the PDO, Pacific Decadal Oscillation, seems to have a muting effect on this ENSO, which is why I think we've been muted in terms of the very little variability. However, this is in the area of science that needs a lot more unraveling, and I'm certainly not an expert, but from my experience, this is what I've read and also understand. But anybody else out there, Victor or Dan Brown, anybody want to, or David Dubois, you want to try a swipe at that? You heard it.
Well, let me ask my follow-up then,
Okay.
because it's related to that, is what gives the consensus folks, I mean, what are the clues that they're looking at that puts it on the negative side of things? Because certainly that's not great news. And,
Yeah.
You know, it's,
You know.
I mean, the snowpack is what we're worried about.
Yeah.
We're certainly thankful to have the monsoons and thankful that it's a strong monsoon, but a relatively robust. You know, it's that October, November, December time frame that really, you know, I mean, last year ate us for lunch. I mean, we had some good snows after that, but we really started off dry, and that's right around the corner. And so you would hope that consensus gives us some indication that it doesn't give us any indication that there's warming, which is helps correlate to the maybe a little bit wetter climate in New Mexico. And so I'm just trying to get a sense of the confidence of that. Is that mauve color? What, I don't know what color that is. But the consensus and the statistical models, because last year we sort of had the same kind of setup, and boy, it ate us for lunch. So that was my follow-up: is what's our confidence in this? Is it that our confidence is, you know, it's going to be between there and there, and hopefully it's high, or is the consensus have a little bit higher confidence?
For New Mexico, this is my interpretation, okay? And I would ask David or Victor or Dan Brown to get in there. But for New Mexico, we have when we have strong signals, we can have high confidence because we're highly correlated when we have a good signal, okay, one way or the other.
Right.
Okay. We have a neutral signal, my confidence is low that you can tell whether it's going to be wet, dry, fall, winter, etc. So I wouldn't try to extract much out of the tea leaves of these lines right now because there isn't much to give us.
Hey, Sean, this is Victor. I agree with everything you said. I would just chime in and say that, as you all know, the dynamical models show a little bit more warmer sea surface temps than does the statistical models. I think the reason being for that, right now, the sea surface temps a little bit cooler than normal. However, if you go subsurface, there is some warm pockets, or warmer than normal temps right now below the surface, which are measured by, you know, various buoys. So I think the dynamical models are probably factoring in those below surface warmer temps into their forecast, and that accounts for difference between the statistical and dynamical. But either way, at the end of the day, they're all within plus or minus 0.5 of 0. I mean, whether it's plus 0.3 or minus 0.3 really is not going to matter a whole lot. At the end of the day, it's still ENSO neutral. And I know the official IRI CPC forecast for the September, October, November time period, I think it was about 75% probability of ENSO neutral. So at the end of the day, you know, ENSO neutral seems to be the screaming message. Whether it's plus 0.3 or minus 0.3, doesn't really matter. It's still neutral. And like Sean said, no strong signal. And absent, you know, an El Nino, where we do have a strong signal or strong correlation for above normal precip, you know, absent El Nino, which is certainly not showing up anywhere here, I think it would be difficult to expect, excuse me, any kind of, you know, drought relief. And secondly, Sean also pointed out, we've got this Pacific Decadal Oscillation out there, which is about a 20-year to 30-year cycle. It started in 2000, went negative, and with that negative PDO, it's difficult to get El Ninos. And I think it's also difficult in general to get, last time there was a negative PDO was back in the 50s. Of course, that was one of the drier time periods for New Mexico and for Texas. So there's a lot of correlation between Texas and New Mexico. When the PDO is negative and the AMO, the Atlantic Multi-Decadal Oscillation, is positive, like it is right now, those phases were in sync back in the 50s. And we all know what happened then. So those two phases are in sync right now also. So I think based on those two things, I wouldn't get too, unfortunately, I wouldn't get too hyped up over, you know, some imminent drought relief.
I appreciate that. I was just going to say, Victor Longworth again, I was going to say kind of what you summarized with, is that we don't have a strong signal one way or the other, so we have an equal chances through the next, through the early fall. And there are some indicators out there that correlate with the 50s, the AMO, the PDO, and so there is less optimism for a drought buster here early fall than one would hope without given these conditions. And I just want to be clear about that because I'm going up to interim committees later this month, and there'll probably be some other opportunities where I'm going to have to speak about this, and I just wanted to make sure I had some good understanding of what you guys, I don't need to get into the physics of it, but if what I've just said is agreeable with you guys, I can hone that a little bit and be confident with kind of where I'm coming from. Does that sound right?
I think that's good, John. I think the two key things, the two main things, the two most compelling things against any kind of rapid relief or rapid improvement be, number one, the phasing of the Pacific decadal oscillation being cold or negative, if you will, with the Atlantic multi-decadal oscillation being positive or warm. As you said, this last occurred back in the 50s, and it lasts. The AMO went warm in 95, the PDO went cold in 2000. They each last about 20 to 30 years. So those two signals syncing up the way they are do not bode well for rapid relief or long-term relief. Point one, and the second one would be, in fact, I'm looking here at this IRI forecast right now. I'll send you the link if you can, and Dave, I'll send you the link and you can share it with John. Through January, February, March, they show 76% chance of neutral, 14% La Nina, 10% El Nino. So there is a strong signal, quite honestly, for things to stay ENSO neutral. And with that strong signal for ENSO neutral, we looked at three different three different the statistical, dynamical, and the consensus. They varied, but they all varied within the neutral range. I think the screening message is that things will more likely than not remain ENSO neutral into early 2014. And with that being the case, there's no strong signal, one way or the other for, there's no strong signal, period.
That sounds good. Thank you.
And as opposed to, if we had strong signal for El Nino, if it was that way around, 76% chance of El Nino, I think that'd be worth taking the pom-poms out and shaking them. But, the chance for neutral being 76 for January, February, March, 76% chance of neutral, only 10% chance of El Nino, about 14% chance of La Nina. Bottom line is, the odds for neutral are much, much, much greater than El Nino, which doesn't really bode for strong signal at least for improvement.
Yeah. Sean and Victor, thank you for the explanation. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I guess you'd be pessimistic in terms of water fighting. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Okay. Well, thanks, Sean. Really, very much appreciate.
You're welcome.
Taking the place of Chuck for his birthday. And all right, let's go on. Let's move on to the U.S. Bureau of Reclamation reservoir status with Raymond.
Good morning.
Morning.
Well, we won't see El Nino through my career. It's got another 15 years to go or so. That 30-year span he was talking about. Well, I'll start on the Rio Grande on the reservoir storages. Petoro is 8,832 acre-feet. Heron, 96,715. Elvado is down to 22,235. Abiquiu is 143,031. Cochiti, 47,260. Elephant Butte, 87,443. And Caballo, 10,548. On the Pecos, Santa Rosa is 10,774. Sumner is 5802. Brandley 5324. And Avalon 967. And the
What was
Rio Grande,
Avalon again?
I'm sorry?
What was Avalon again?
967.
Thank
So
you.
the Rio Grande, the rains have helped some. It's bought us some time as far as being able to cut back on the mineral release of the endangered species. And it's been enough native here and there for a little added irrigation. When it's, of course, when it's not raining, they don't need it, which is kind of a bad thing. So you get that extra native, and the timing isn't exactly there because everyone's soaked. But there have been times that it came in handy for the areas that didn't get the rain. Bit of relief there. And on the Pecos, Santa Rosa has been getting some decent inflow, with some of that rain up north. They've gained close to 7,000 acre feet since this all started, which has been really nice. They gained a little bit too at Sumner also. We haven't had to do any mini block releases to keep Sumner at an operation level, and so that's been really handy for that. And of course, down near the Dunlap and Acme area, they've been getting some rains, and that reconnected the river because it started to dry up again. So we used up all our stored water for the fish, and it started to recede, and now it's got re-wetted. So they've been getting hit here and there in that area also. So little by little, there's been some relief, but like we've heard from already, it's going to take a long time for us to get out of this, and especially storage-wise. It would take a lot to get Elkin Butte back above 400,000 and get out of Article 7, and in order for us to start storing in our upper reservoirs as far as the native for Elvado. But we're just hanging in there, and somehow going to seem to make the season by the skin of our teeth. So that's all I have, unless anyone has questions.
Raymond Longworth, I do have a question. With the inflows to Santa Rosa, and Santa Rosa at about 10,000, we're beginning of August. Has there been any talk about maybe doing a block release to bring some of that water down to Brantley to get a late season irrigation?
Yeah, the board, CID, the board, they're kind of maybe talking about maybe doing a block release, maybe in the end of August, September, but that's still in the works. Some of us here think it'd be beneficial that they just try to save that for next year, but those talks are still going on, so we'll see. But
so
yeah,
nothing's been firmed up.
I'm sorry?
Nothing's been firmed up at this point. There's no plan.
Oh, not yet. Okay. Not yet. They are kind of talking about it.
Yeah, we're keeping up tabs of that as well, because I know a lot of folks in Santa Rosa would like to do some water skiing type activities because the reservoir is in a little bit better conditions. But I agree with Raymond. He's on top of everything. He goes all over it. But if we do get some more rains, it sounds like what Raymond was talking about, that block release will happen in September, but we need a lot more rain.
Yeah, definitely.
Because the losses within the system, if we do transfer any of that water to Brantley, it's too great right now.
Yeah, they would just lose so much water, and that's what we're trying to convince them of, But we'll see what they decide. Yeah? Okay, thank you.
Any more questions for Raymond? All right. Okay, I didn't know if I hadn't seen Wayne sign on. I don't know if we... John, did he give you anything?
Let me check.
He didn't email anything to me.
Oh.
Okay. All right, well, we'll move on to Anne Marie with the USGS.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So this report is on stream flow conditions for the water year, so starting in October and going through the end of July. Just to repeat the background, it's based on 21 stations that are relatively unmanaged. So it's attempting to look at unmanaged flow in the state of New Mexico and uses a period of record for each one of the stations. So the period of record obviously is different for various stations, but that's what the basis is here. You can see we've got that one little green dot, number 18, down in the corner, and that I think is the first time we've seen things in the normal range for probably since the fall. To look at the basins, in particular, the San Juan Basin is represented by the Animas River, that's number 19, and that's at 34% of average, which is actually down a little bit from last month. The Upper Rio Grande tributaries, that's 7 to 12, 17 to 44% of average, staying about the same. Ames River, 13, also staying about the same, is at 30%. The Upper Rio Grande main stem, number 9, the Rio Grande at Taos Junction Bridge at 39%. And moving on to the Canadian River, tributaries in Colfax County, that's numbers 1, 2, and 3, 9 to 24%, which is actually starting to creep up a little bit. In Mora County, numbers 5 and 6, both are at about 7%. And the main stem, number 4, is at 23%, and that has been holding at about 8% for quite a few months now, so that's an improvement. Upper Pecos, San Miguel County, numbers 14 and 15, the Pecos at Pecos and Guyanas River at Montezuma are at 36 and 20%. In the Lower Pecos, Otero and Eddy counties, numbers 16, 17, and 18. These have stream flow conditions ranging from 25 to 92% of average. The 92% Delaware River at Red Bluff, this is based on a single major event. It happened in July 17th and 18th. And the daily values for those days were between 800 and 900 CFS. So that is the one event that brought that percentage up into the normal range. The Gila Basin, Grant County, sites 20 and 21. Mogollon Creek is at 61% of average, up from 33% last month. And the Gila River at Red Rock has stream flow conditions that are 57% of average, which is up from 37% last month. And that's all I have, unless there are any questions. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Anne Marie. What was that green? The far southeast. What was that again? Which station was that?
That was the Delaware River at Red Rock.
Okay, the Red Rock.
Yeah, that's usually dry. But if there's a strong event, you'll see some pretty heavy flow in there. So that was that major flood event around Carlsbad is reflected in that.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Okay, it looks like Sean has got the Office of State Engineer report up. So John and Molly and Ken, you're next.
So, I got some reservoir levels off of some Corps of Engineer and USGS websites yesterday. So I'm going to show you some of those, and then, but in the same presentation where we looked at the graphics of the on this legend. The last year and the average are NRCS numbers, and then the others are what I got off of the website yesterday. I'm also going to show you a little bit. We have this gauge, the Pecos River above Santa Rosa. I think we looked at this the last couple of work group meetings. So the flow has the 7-day average discharge. You've gotten up a little bit better. We're up into the, what is it, 25 to 75% normal. You know, spikes up there. And this is our Santa Rosa, what it looks like right now. It reflects the numbers that we've been talking about where they have picked up some storage in the last few rainfall events.
Can you move the microphone a little closer?
Cumulative flow for the Pecos River above Santa Rosa. So we are comparing this is May. We're way down here in very low numbers. And then here again we reflect some of the events that we've had in the last couple of months since May. So this is the August number that I got yesterday. We're actually up into past the lowest observed cumulative flow there. Here's Sumner again, reflecting the numbers that we've already talked about for storage. Still way below average. Brantley. And I think the new reservoir numbers were presented at the Drought Task Force meeting, so I left this slide in. Shows what what the storages that used. I don't think we've had used before. Then we can go over here to Navajo. In the northwest part of the state, obviously lower than last year. Abiquiu, Alvarado, and Sharon, again showing that everything's lower than last year. And again, I don't think we can find the same story, lower than. And again, this is the website, and we'll post all these reports on the website under the status of the current status in the drought monitoring status report. Anybody have any questions?
No questions for Molly?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Well, thank you, Molly. Much appreciated. Let's go on. I'll wait for Sean. We'll go to the NMDA report with Les Owen. All right, thank you. Got that up. Go ahead, Les.
Yeah, the first the page you got up right now that shows the comparison between this year and last year at this time frame for departure from average on the NDVI kind of shows well, it's been a long dang time since there's been any improvement. I think when I first started participating in these calls was the beginning of the drought back in 2011, and there's been no good news ever since. It's just been terrible. So it's nice to actually say that there's some country greening up out there, but I want to reiterate what everybody else has said is we've got a long, long ways to go before we're out of drought. There's still, with the crop and weather report that follows on this, if you read through the comments of the county agents throughout the state, there's been some areas that have received rain that are doing great, some that it's slowing down, and the range is starting to go back to poor conditions. Some areas have yet to have greened up at all. Dryland crops, still just aren't doing good. So there's a long ways to go to recovery, but it's just nice to be driving around the state and see some rangeland that's actually green and growing right now. It's been so long since I've seen that. It's quite refreshing, but there's still a long ways to go. And that's pretty much all I have. I don't know of anything new or enlightening to share beyond that, but if anybody has any questions, I'd be more than happy to try and answer them. Great.
All right, thanks, Les. I just wanted, anecdotally, I was driving through back from Los Lunas on Wednesday, and I was just amazed, just from the freeway, how green the hills were. This was in southern Socorro, northern Sierra County. I mean, it was amazingly green. I was like, wow. I mean, because you haven't seen the green in a long time. I'm used to just gray and sort of brownish.
Yeah, you think I'm in the wrong state. There's green hair on the land out there. It's not right.
Yeah, I was very impressed.
Hey, let's Victor from Fort Worth Southern Region National Weather Service. If I can ask you a quick question, your images are very compelling. The average time period, what's the time period in which the average is determined?
I want to say it's 89 to 2003. The NDVI departure images that I'm using are from the Forest Service Wildfire Assessment System. In fact, I've got that up right now. The average, I know it talks about this, 89 to 2003 is when that's what they established the average on, so.
Okay, so your two images then are the difference in the vegetation?
Yeah, they're the departure of that week from that 89 to 2003 average.
Gotcha. Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Great images, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
And these are these from MODIS? So it's every day?
These are from the AVHRR.
AVHRR, okay. Mm-hmm. All righty. Okay, well, thanks, Les.
Yes, sir.
All right, I don't know. I didn't hear either Joyland or Emelita on the call. Doesn't sound like they're on the call from Farm Service Agency. Well, does anybody have any other topics for discussion? Any other events, notices, news?
Hey, Dave Longworth.
Yeah.
You could talk about just some of the activity from the Drought Task Force meeting that occurred last week, whenever that was, just in the last couple of days.
Sure. Yeah, we had the Drought Task Force. Let me get my notes here. Oops. This was on August 7th. It was in Las Vegas, New Mexico, of course. We have John and I, we presented the drought update. We had some good discussion. After our briefings from NMED, they gave a talk about a vulnerable communities assessment. I think it was Tom Blaine and somebody else was talking about that. And then
Ryan Flynn.
Ryan Flynn, okay. Yeah.
Designate.
Do you have more information on that? I have notes. I can read it, but I didn't boil down.
I mean, I could just give. Well, I mean, let me kind of we'll tag team this a little bit. The format of the meeting was a little bit different than in the past. We actually had some participation from the cabinet. The chair asked that I just kind of review the governor's declaration, and we did that to open up the meeting, declaration from last year. And then Chuck and Dave did a great job of just sort of presenting, kind of the same message we had today, that there's been improvement, but we're not out of the woods yet. I think Molly's presentation is more or less reflected what I presented in terms of storage. So I think our message is pretty similar. We got the, sort of the meteorological aspect of the drought definitely improved over the last month, but when we start looking at the long-term indicators, the hydrologic drought, and then with Les's slide, somewhat the agricultural drought, maybe to a lesser extent, are still kind of not doing so great. We've got the low storages, the low stream flows, and a mixed bag with regards to seeing our rangeland greening up. Then there were 3 presentations provided by the cabinet. This is just off my memory, Dave, so chime in if I missed this. We had the drinking water vulnerability assessment project that is being championed by the New Mexico Environment Department. They sent out letters to, I believe, just around 260 entities that I think they have on record as having one point of diversion for their drinking water systems, and gave them a questionnaire as to sort of what the status of those systems are, so we could get some sense of what some of our, and just generally rural, I mean, I don't even want to say generally, it's all rural, all small systems, if there's any Magdalena type situations that might be happening, and we're trying to get in front of that. Then the second, I don't remember what the second one was. What was the second one?
It was a
the second one?
EMNRD watershed program.
That's right. They went through a presentation on the watershed program, talked a little bit about some of the projects they're working on, and then there was a presentation from the New Mexico Department of Finance and Administration, which I think in the 5, 6, 7, 8 years I've been doing this, that was the first time I've ever seen them do a presentation. I was pretty surprised about that, and I forgot what they. I was so stunned I forgot what they said. I think they were just talking a little bit about the capital outlay program and just trying to just speaking generally about moving forward in terms of how to get the money from the state to those who need it with regards to drought. The next drought meeting is not been scheduled, but with Chuck's guidance, Chuck and Dave's guidance, we recommended probably sometime after Halloween, in mid-November, and the point there being we'll obviously would have October behind us, the first month of the water year, so we can see if those neutral conditions favored us a little bit this time instead of what we think what the consensus might be, and we'll have some sense for we'll have a better confidence of the short-term or near-term forecasts. So that'll help give some information to the task force. And I think then the other big news was there was a series of work groups or
subcommittee.
Use the term work subcommittee. Thank you. Formed. This came out of a meeting that was held with cabinet and the governor and her staff to start focusing on a couple different areas. And I forget all the committees, but there's one is essentially a broad umbrella I've a different name, but water reuse or something like that. and that included everything from brackish water, drilling, whatever that petroleum reuse water is, gray water, and other new sources, agricultural, conservation and water transfer committee, what's the other committee? Do you remember what?
There's a watershed, health and development.
There we go. And then there was an economic development committee. So those were assigned. There's chairs for that, and those work groups, some have started and some are still fixing to start. And the idea there is kind of tied back to the executive order, is to start developing some recommendations for the governor with regards to actions the state of New Mexico can take to help build resiliency into the future. And given Victor's discussion about the AMO PDO, it sounds like it's an appropriate kind of action to take to keep thinking about drought. It was pretty well attended. Being in Las Vegas was, I think, a nice change from sort of the Santa Fe routine. We were hosted by the City of Las Vegas, which has a pretty aggressive urban water conservation program, and they showed off some of their numbers and some of their materials. Gave us a very nice welcome. And then the other interesting part about kind of getting out away from Santa Fe is we did have a couple of comments from the floor, from the public, that normally we haven't had. So I thought there were some good comments that came from the general public. The next meeting, I think, they're hinting at maybe doing in Socorro, but nothing definite yet. So that maybe brings in a different audience. Obviously brings in a different audience, but it's accessible, I think, to some other areas that kind of Santa Fe is a bit far away. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know, Dave. Do you have anything else?
I think you got all the presentations, and I think one thing as an education component for the task force and other folks will be there was a recommendation offline to discuss the workings of the drought monitoring maps. How are they created? How are they assessed? What models, and what does it mean when there's a D3 or a D4? What's the difference between those two? And I think that's probably a good thing to actually put out, and not only for the drought task force, but probably for this group. Sort of a tutorial, but not like real in depth, but for the right cut to the chase. What's the difference between the different numbers?
Yeah, I think that was there was definitely we had some give and take on that with the task force.
Yeah, and I'm looking at my notes. There was another thing. There was a desire to promote some of the drought resources. Talk about maybe extension databases and getting things out to the public on water conservation, and because that followed on with the drinking water vulnerability assessment was doing, is getting getting folks to come to them, but I think it's also going the other direction, putting things out onto people's laps, or mailing or emails, meeting one-on-one type of thing. What can be done? What can we do as individuals and agencies? But that's a big task, and I think it was discussed, and I forget who on the task force we were discussing that.
Yeah, I remember, you're right, Dave. It came up. I don't remember.
Yeah. I think that was about it. There was one. I have one other thing on my notes about the state water plan updating. The last update, I think you said, was in 2010. and maybe by next year in pieces. Do you remember that discussion?
Yeah, I do remember the discussion, and I do remember basically saying I didn't really know what was going on with the state
Okay.
plan. I'm trying to say that as eloquently as I could without saying it. I mean, I'm not on the State Water Plan Committee or team. The Interstate Stream Commission has formed a subcommittee with some of the commission members, and they are working through how to proceed with the updates of regional water plans that would then help feed into the state water plan. And so there's a broader conversation going on there that's continuing. There's a couple of ideas being kicked around about what the regional plan, how best to approach the regions, and how to kind of get the biggest bang for the state buck. Specifically, there's an appropriation this year for about $400,000 for regional water planning, and so they're trying not to repeat some of the mistakes that maybe were made in the first development of some of the regional plans. So, given that, it was tough to answer the question of kind of how that's moved forward.
Okay. Oh, and can you contact Yolanda and see if we can get the minutes for both the...
She generally won't give the minutes until they're adopted. We've tried in the past.
Oh, okay.
She guards them pretty tightly.
Okay.
I know we've tried to get them specifically to review what assignments tasks that the task force had given us to make sure we were being responsive, and she essentially said she's not in a position where she could release those notes in any way until the task force had adopted them. So you could try, but she was pretty clear that was a no-go.
Okay. Did they adopt the 29th of April meeting?
The minutes from those? Yes, they did.
Okay.
So I can put those on the
Yeah,
website.
we'll get those up on the website.
Okay. So we'll have to wait till the next meeting to do the 7th of August.
Yeah.
Okay.
If she gets them done, I mean, I'm sure she will. She's been better than some of the past, kind of meeting managers who, would take a couple of meetings before the minutes would get up.
Yeah.
That was when it's not D4 conditions in a quarter of the state.
Okay. The only thing I just announced is there's a tree ring workshop in Las Cruces for mainly water managers and folks like that. It's on September 19th on campus from 9 to 12. So if you have somebody who you would like to listen to that, it's going to be Connie Woodhouse of the University of Arizona and her student Dan Griffin. They've been looking at tree rings, climate reconstruction for the monsoon, for New Mexico, and also the Rio Grande flow. So I think that should be good. And they're going to be talking about some of the local sources of dendrochronology from the Oregon mountains, which they analyzed, and they just published a paper for the southern Arizona, so they're going to be publishing this data pretty soon. So I thought it'd be good. I know the EBID has been invited in their consulting firm. So any other folks you think would be useful, let me know, and I'll get an invitation sent out. I don't want to have a huge huge meeting. It's more of focusing on people who would really need this for water management, land management in southern New Mexico. We had one in Albuquerque last year. So that's all I had.
Yeah, Dave, that brings to my mind, there are 2 drought management, I guess, I like calling it kind of like community capacity building for drought. We're going to work with rural water and NMED. We're doing presentations. I believe we got a commitment from NIDIS to come down for those. One is October 15th. I think it's in Taos, and another one is November 15th, and I think that one's in Las Cruces. Again, aimed at rural water. It's going to be through the Rural Water Association's. What do you call those things? I don't know. They have their. It's not their big annual conference. They're kind of doing these sub-region conferences, and there's a name for them. I forget. So we're going to have NIDIS. NIDIS has indicated they're willing to come down and assist, kind of giving some overall conditions type of stuff. We've also had some help from the National Drought Mitigation Center, but we haven't really put much together on our end. We'll be doing that probably the week before.
Okay.
They're doing.
Great.
I can't remember the 15th in Cruces or the 15th. I don't know, but it's Taos and Las Cruces. I think Las Cruces is in November.
Okay. Wonderful. Yeah. Whenever when there's something official, just send it off and I'll promote it.
I will. We have a draft outline for the agenda that's circulating now. So hopefully the next week or so, I'll try to send it off to you.
All right. Very good. Anything else last minute needs to go out? All right.
Next meeting, yep.
Next meeting, yeah, that's our next topic on the agenda. So, looking at September, CPC comes out with their seasonal, which will probably be same, right? On the 19th, is that right? It's third Thursday. So what do you guys think about the following week of the 23rd? How about the 24th? Would that work? Is it what,
Chuck's schedule here?
yeah, what's weather service schedule?
Chuck is going to be working a swing shift on the 24th.
Okay.
That means he's from here from 4 to midnight. On the 20th, he's working a day shift, however. That's Friday.
How about the how about the next Thursday, the 26th?
He's off.
He's off?
That doesn't include, he could come in, I suppose, on the, what were you saying, the 24th?
24 to 26th. That's just for my selfish needs. I teach classes in the mornings on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays.
If we did it on the 24th, I would advocate for a later time in the day so that he could be here like at 2.
Do you want to do that?
Morning. I would say like 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon on the 24th.
Would that work for folks giving presentations or listening in an afternoon? This is a Tuesday afternoon.
This is Anne Marie. That would work for me.
Okay. How about other? What'd you say, Les?
That works for me.
Okay.
Yeah, that works for me.
Okay, Raymond works. Okay. How about John, Molly?
We can make it work.
Okay. That sounds great.
For it.
Okay, so that next call is September 24th. You want to do it at 2 p.m. Mountain Time?
Yeah, that works.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's do that.
All right.
All right, thank you, folks. Yeah, thank you, guys. Thanks for going at a little longer than usual, but good discussions. So, see you next time.
Thanks, Dave.
All right. Bye.